This is Powered by Iron Health, an Iron Health podcast based out of Westchester, New York. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to the Powered by Iron Health podcast. Today we have Jenya Katsnelson on. She is a nutritionist and she has a lot of experience in the health and wellness industry. So kind of jumping into it, she actually went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And she's had a huge passion that developed kind of throughout some of her past for health and wellness. So we have an exciting episode for you guys, and I hope that you guys really enjoy it. So welcome on, Jenya.
Thank you so much, Tom. I'm so excited to be here. And thanks to my little brother, Sam. So just like to kind of jump into like exactly what you said, like I've had a passion for healthy living for a really long time. And it's because of like certain struggles that I went through personally. And my life took a lot of unexpected turns. So I've always wanted to be an actress. So I went to Fame High School. So it's the LaGuardia High School of Performing Arts. And I majored in drama. But I was extremely insecure. I was scared to fail. So instead of pursuing my acting career, I decided to prove to people that I was smart. So I decided to enroll at Hunter College and I majored in economics. After a little while, like initially my grades were good, but after a little while I decided I wanted to make money. And I decided that I did not need college education to do that. So I dropped out. I got a job on Wall Street after several interviews. I got my Series 7 and then a bunch of other serieses. So then I was, the big girl. Like I was going out partying, drinking, smoking a pack a day, sustaining on Diet Coke, artificial sweeteners, and obviously in the morning coffee to get me through the day and then so that I can do it all over again. So that continued for a while. Then I developed anxiety and panic attacks and things got a lot worse. I mean, I made a lot of mistakes. I was miserable. So it really got to the point that if I didn't change my life, something bad was going to happen. And so it all happened, I say that it happened randomly, but some people say there's no such thing as random. I was on this path, I was supposed to go through it. So I read a study about the negative effects of artificial sweeteners and diet soda on your mood, and they're implicated in, anxiety and panic attacks and depression. So as soon as I read it, it just spoke to me. I was like, I am done with it. I cannot go on doing this to myself. So I right away gave it up, cold turkey. So I still kept my black coffee. And so I felt so much better that I was like, okay, I have to start looking into what else is there. So then I learned the connection between blood sugar fluctuation and its effect on mood. And then I noticed that sometimes when I don't eat, I literally get panicky. I'm like, I need food. And so then I learned that it's either you burn sugar or you burn fat. And what you want to do is you want to burn fat to get out of that spiral. Mm-hmm. If you're in that spiral, you will always have anxiety. You need your sugar drops, you get irritable, you need to eat it. You eat it, you're here, and then it drops, and you're on this roller coaster. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and then one thing led to another. Then I started reading labels. And I'm like, what the hell are these ingredients? And I actually have a funny story for you guys because it would kind of bring the point home. So when I was 12, we moved here from Russia.
Okay.
And neither my parents nor I spoke any English. And my mom bought me a t-shirt. It had some characters on it. It had something written on it. So I wore it to school the next day. And this is 6th grade, almost 30 years ago. And I was getting a lot of really not positive attention, but more finger pointing. And I was I'm like, what the hell is happening? What did I do? And then at some point, the teacher came up to me and she asked me to put my jacket on. And I'm like, what is happening right now? What is going on? So that night, my parents received a phone call from school, and apparently my t-shirt said, "Don't worry, shit happens." So I mean, like in 6th grade, being a girl who just started school, like, I mean, that was, I mean, a very, hard experience. So the point is, if you don't know what something means, don't put it in your body or on your body. So that's basically how I got into this whole thing. Like one thing led to another, and here I am.
That's awesome. So obviously, like going through school, it educated you a lot about the nutritional side, and I'm sure that when you have that passion for something, it allows you to just kind of really drop yourself and dive right into whatever you're studying, because you're like, this is what I've wanted, this is what I enjoy. Getting into that, what are some of the things that you first noticed as you were starting to educate yourself more and more about nutrition that kind of excited you and got you to where you were like, okay, this is really, really what I want to do?
Oh, that's a very good question. I love it. And I love it because, again, like you said, I've been very passionate about it. So like at first I thought it was acting, then I thought it was like, Wall Street. Then it's like, so then I'm like, it's this. And so what got me excited is because, again, the transformation I saw in myself. And then I was like, well, I want to help others. I'm like, I have all of this information. I want to share it with others. But I'm like, who's going to listen to somebody, like, I'm like, I read a study, it's like
Yeah.
people, so then I'm like, okay, I need something more formal. So I have to go to school. And so I also was kind of like at crossroads at my job. I was passed out for a promotion. So I was like, this is not the life that I want. And then as soon as I would say, I want to go back to school for nutrition, you kind of feel that, that excitement in your stomach, like you kind of get, like your eyes, like, you get those, like, what are they called? Butterflies, like, you're like, oh my God. So it felt right in my gut, right? So incidentally, right? Like I'm studying nutrition, it felt right in my gut. So, and then when I actually started studying, I already was reading, all my free time was spent on researching things, helping my mom with her ailments, helping my sister with, figuring out how to lose weight, because everybody is so obsessed about. And it's like, it's not as difficult, It's like, as people make it out to be, because you take small steps every single day, and then it just happens for you. But you can't like focus on like, you can't focus on all the setbacks and all the negative stuff that happens. You kind of have to keep your eye on the prize. So then going back to your question. So when I started studying, this was actually when COVID just started.
Okay.
But what I noticed happening to me, I would start my morning, because I had a full-time job at the time. So in the morning, I would have to wake up early. I would obviously exercise, because I think that's one of my top things. I would exercise, I would meditate, and then I would start studying. So I noticed that I was studying, and while everybody was focusing on disease, on COVID, on being scared, I was like glowing. I'm like, I am focusing on health. I'm like, I actually felt guilty. I'm like, all of these people are so scared and fearful of COVID, and here I am like being like, and then I get to work from home. I'm like, who is answering all of, somebody is like, there's gotta be a genie out there making all of my dreams come true. And so for me, I'm like, I know I'm on the right path, because I am learning. I am I kind of knew that food was responsible for so many things. But this just confirmed that what I felt was true. And then also we learned not only, a way of eating, but how you approach things. Like one of the things that we learned in school, for instance, that it's really not only about food, right? So we kind of like exercise and physical activity and movement are so essential. And different movements. It's not just like one. You got to do different styles, because you want to use all of your muscles and whatnot, but then also you want to manage your stress levels. You want to have self-care. And these studies really kind of brought it all together. And then another thing, if you're in a toxic relationship, no amount of kale smoothies will get you feeling better, right? So it's just not how it works. So we really approached the school really took a holistic approach to wellness, which I think is very essential. And a lot of people think it's like, oh, I got to do this, or I got to do that, or I can't eat this, or it's like, no, people, enjoy your life. Like, it's like life is meant to be enjoyed. It's short. It's like, before you know it, it's over. So like, live, enjoy, and feel great doing it. I mean, so I think that's my main thing. You got to feel good, whatever it is that you're doing. Enjoy the journey. I mean, I love my journey studying, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
So going more into it, I think a big part right now is we're having a lot of younger athletes that are, unfortunately, I think to an extent, some of them are influenced in a good way when it comes to nutrition, but some of them are influenced in a bad, more of a poor way. I'm saying maybe like more of our middle school athletes that are finding fitness for the first time. They're going into the gym for the first time and they're taking certain supplements that for somebody of their age, it can be more harmful than beneficial to somebody of an older age. So kind of going into that for as far as athletes, kind of between younger to the older athletes, say college level and even professional athletes, how do you feel nutrition kind of affects their daily lives, and in what ways does nutrition kind of differ between the younger athlete versus the older athletes?
Yes, so I mean, okay, so in terms of younger athletes, I think, or older ones actually, I think there's a lot of misinformation. And I think supplement companies make money. It's an industry. They make a lot of money. And unfortunately, advertising has a lot to do with it. So if you have your famous celebrity supporting a particular supplement, and these kids grew up with advertising, and like it's all in your brain. So it's like you think that why would somebody, who I trust suggest something that's not good for me? So they're very trustworthy, and I think it's a very dirty trick that these advertising companies are playing, because these are their lives. And like, I'm sorry, taking unhealthy supplements, they can have detrimental effects. I also think that like whole food, basically it doesn't really bring as much money, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So it's undervalued. So, but these young athletes need proper nutrition so that the brain makes the connection between what is actually good for them and what is not. Then another thing is, like, I know we all have insecurity, so we all want to look good, we want to be accepted, and so some people think by having a certain physique you will be accepted. But you know what? Even once you reach that, you'll find something else that's wrong with you. Right? So it's never like, okay, I reached it.
Yeah.
Great. My life is amazing. I win. No. Then you start doing other things. And then, like, I personally know that some of the things that I've taken got me, into a depressive state. I had anxiety. It's like, and then because it doesn't happen overnight, and unfortunately these young athletes don't understand that it's a cumulative effect. And then you wake up and you're like, why can I not do as many things like I used to? Well, because you took certain things and, now you got to heal. I mean, like, the point is, if you stop and you start taking care of yourself, you can reverse all the damage that you have done. So, and then your question in terms of older people, like, like in college, like, I think it's people don't rest enough. So then in college, you go. You don't allow your body enough time to recuperate, because you think that the more you do, the better, stronger you will be. And it's actually the opposite. You're going to be strategic, but it's okay to do less. And it's okay to take breaks between, workout sessions, because I think weight training is very important for young people and older people. But at the same time, you have to give body rest, and you have to provide the nutrients. Because, for example, if somebody is deficient like in iron or magnesium or whatnot, they will not perform as good. So, and how do you get all of those nutrients? So you basically have to eat a varied diet. So, I mean, I would say, but again, one thing that I do want to also mention is that it's all very individual. So, like, what's good for one person may not be good for another. And I think another thing is, like, you have to listen to your body. Like, if you wake up and you feel not great, do not go spend 2 hours at the gym already. You know, go for a walk today, right? Or do something lighter, stretching or something. Do not overexert yourself, because eventually it catches up, or you can create, like, you know, a strain, you know. So basically you want to prevent things rather than kind of, you know, load things on and then be like, what went wrong where?
And obviously, I mean, that goes right into like prehab for us. It's
Right.
one of those things, like, we have athletes all the time, and I mean, for example, in baseball, we're seeing it more than ever now. Kids having to have Tommy John surgery in there in high school, and I'm like, Tommy John surgery used to be a thing that like barely even college athletes saw. We used to only see it, like, you typically only saw it in professional baseball players, even minor league guys. And now we have these younger athletes that, I mean, you have freshmen that are throwing 85-mile-an-hour fastballs, and I'm sitting there, that's great, but we're not giving them enough rest. And so then next thing you know, Tommy John surgery. And now, instead of them being at their peak of their game, they've now been pushed back 2-3 years into their game because they had to have that surgery. So now they have to figure out how to throw again with the surgery. They have to go through the rehab. And it's one of those things that I think, as people push themselves, and I won't lie, I did it myself. I was a wrestler. And the amount of times that I used to think it was, I used to push myself to the extent of throwing up sometimes during practice. And I was like, oh, this is good. This is me, like, having pains leaving. And I'm like, this is all good. I've like gotten myself stronger. And I'm like, as I got older, I was like, no, that was a terrible thing to like think. Like, now, like, I realize it's like one of those things, like, if I feel any soreness, it's one of those, like, especially working at a physical therapy clinic, you look at Iron Health, and one of the biggest things that we talk passionately about is take the time to recover. If you feel the slightest bit of soreness, stretch, exactly what you're saying, do something lighter. There's no use in exerting more force on a muscle that you can already feel a pain in, because exactly what you're saying, the body's telling you, hey, I need a break. I need a rest. That's why you're feeling that pain. That's why you're feeling that discomfort. It's the same thing with our stomachs. And kind of going back in the nutrition side, you eat something and all of a sudden your stomach's upset. Obviously your stomach's trying to tell you, hey, I don't like this food. Let's not eat this again. And then obviously, don't get me wrong, there's certain things, like for me, it's spicy foods. I love my spicy foods, but my stomach hates them. But every once in a while, I'm like, we're just going to deal with it this once. But even then, you just got to take that time to kind of really focus on recovering, taking the time to get your body back up to par, and giving it time to relax.
Yes.
You don't ask yourself to stay awake for 40 hours at a time. You give yourself 8 hours of sleep each night. Try to take that time to rest and kind of re-energize. Same thing with your muscles.
No, I totally understand. Yeah, I agree.
So obviously going through college, and I'm sure that you kind of like going through the institute, you saw a lot of things that were some of the older kind of nutritional understandings versus, hey, this is where we've gotten to. This is what we've developed to, and this is kind of where, between science and just testing, we've understood this portion of nutrition this much more. So over the years, kind of, how do you feel nutrition's changed throughout not just the physical side, but more on kind of the side of like performance as well?
Okay, yes. So I think initially we always had, well, not we, but like society basically had things that were considered bad for us, right? So like first it was fat, right? It's like, oh my gosh, stay away from fat. Then it was carbs. Then it became one fat diet after the other. So, and during that time also, we had so many additional new chemicals that were introduced into our food system And so all of these packaged foods had all of these ingredients and whatnot, but they would have health claims, right? Gluten-free, fat-free, or whole grain, and you think that it is something healthy. So you're like, okay, cool, like it's got this claim, I'm gonna eat it, like, right? So, but then, cardiovascular diseases increased, right? So diabetes increased, like everything was like, loaded with sugar, artificial ingredients. And then we had, we would go through phases where there was one, food that you're supposed to eat. Like, let's say first it was like kale, then it was like some superfood. And it just kept on changing because obviously you got to make money, right? So you can't like keep the same thing. So you got to change it. But I think like what is happening more now, it is, so like we did go through like, the keto, paleo, so there were all these diets, right? So it's like, I feel like now it's being changed in a sense that it's individualized, right? So it's like just like you said, right? You cannot tolerate spicy foods. So, but like for instance, cayenne pepper is considered healthy, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but not for you.
Yeah.
So I think right now there's more emphasis on, first of all, whole foods. So I read a study recently that said that's like, they looked at all of the like a lot of diets, not all of the diets, but like a lot of diets. And the verdict is that to lose weight, keep it off, feel great, you got to eat whole foods. But it's like, it's just so simple, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I feel like nutrition is a lot simpler than we make it out to be. And so I think there's emphasis on whole foods. And I also think that now it's more like tailored to the individual. So before where it's like, everybody drink more water, eat less salt. Like just an example like you gave. For me, I went to get my physical recently and the nurse called me back saying like, we need you to come back and retest your sodium levels. I'm like, what's up? She's like, your sodium is too low. So I go back, they test me again, and the doctor's like, are you drinking it? Like, how much water are you drinking? I'm like, oh, don't worry, I drink so much water. He's like, well, you need to stop. Like your sodium level, your sodium levels are too low. So it's like the general advice that used to be given to everybody, like, doesn't work for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, and like for me, it would have been detrimental to my health to take that advice. So I think in the future, or like even like right now, it's more kind of like, okay, so we have to look at the individual and go from there. And then in terms of performance, I want to say that it's kind of like what you put in, that's what you get out.
Yeah.
So I really, I also don't love cooking, right? So it's like I like to eat healthy, but I do not like to cook. So I have like certain shortcuts that I have. So I think herbs are like a great, they're great to incorporate in your cooking. And I actually make something like pesto because it's got basil, which is anti-inflammatory, right? So I make pesto. It's delicious. You can put it on the sandwich with avocado, in your pasta, with a little bit of olive oil. So I use kind of like stuff like that, or like carrot ginger dressing in my salad. So I use a lot of that, and it actually enhances my performance when I work out and my mental performance too, because like I feel sharp, I feel clear-headed. I think that, again, and also it's important to eat enough fat, right?
Yeah.
Because our brain needs fat to function. Our muscles need fat. We need fat. We need macronutrients. And I think that the less processed your food is, the better.
Absolutely. So to get into kind of the next topic, so a trending thing that's been throughout social media is guys have been eating Rice Krispie treats. And they've been eating these right before they go to work out, saying, no, it's giving me a workout like better than pre-workout is giving me, or it's giving me a workout that I just feel like I can get a better pump and get a harder workout and push myself harder because I feel more energy. So obviously you have a lot more information and kind of background in this. So what's your take on it, obviously being a trend, and what is the true factor of why people are feeling the way they are as they're eating these?
Very good question. I absolutely love it because it's one of the points that I was actually going to say. So looking at the ingredients, which I love reading and seeing what happens. So this one is filled with corn syrup, fructose, vegetable oil, corn syrup salads, and a bunch of other natural and artificial flavors. So I think that the packaged food industry, first of all, does not play fair, because they have scientists working on creating products that can get us addicted to their products. And it sounds like that's exactly what's happening to these people, and how they do it is by having the perfect amount of carbs, sugar, and fat. So there's actually a term for it. It's called the Bliss Point.
Okay.
And it's the point where the combination is just right. And so what happens, it creates a dysregulation in the dopamine production. So obviously we know that sugar raises, the insulin levels, and when the sugar goes up, we have that surge of energy, which is what they're feeling, right? But then with time, like again, nothing happens overnight, but with time you create that roller coaster that we talked about, that you constantly need these to continue. So it's almost like, they actually have a saying that sugar is more addicting than cocaine, and it's very true. It sounds like these athletes are addicted to this because they get that sugar rush and it gives them power. But the bad news is that it won't last forever, and then you need more and more. So like now they start with one, then they're going to need more and more. And then also when you're bodybuilding or you're working out, you want to control the inflammation. And the trans fats, they add to the inflammation, right? So, and it's like, I think I looked at, according to the World Health Organization, right? Cardiovascular diseases are like, I think the death toll of cardiovascular diseases are something like 17.9 million or something. But these are all preventable diseases, exactly what we're talking about, right? So by taking proper nutrition, like you said, like some protein shakes or something with natural ingredients that may not give you that rush. But that's like a drug. This is like a drug. Just because it's legal, it doesn't mean it doesn't act in your body like a drug. So I really,
So it's almost like that dopamine effect.
Right. So, and the problem with that, obviously, so you need more and more to reach that same happy feeling, or like that rush that they get, so I don't know. I would not, like if my son ate that, I would not be very happy about it.
It's definitely one of those things, and I think, again, going back almost to that younger generation that's influenced by the supplement companies, is a lot of times these supplement companies, all they show is what you were saying. Hey, this is, I won't use The Rock because The Rock hasn't really been advertising a lot of stuff like that, but you use the guy from like Steel Supplements. I can't think of his name, but he's a big dude. However, these younger kids, they don't realize he used steroids to get to where he was, but that was part of his bodybuilding career. He was focused on like working for the Arnold Classic. So obviously most of the guys in that competition, they used roids to get to where they were.
Right.
However, now these guys, they retire out of bodybuilding competitions. They're big guys, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, what do I do for money? Well, supplements obviously want a strong-looking guy that's got a great physique. So now these guys are repping these supplements, and now these kids that are 16, 15 years old. I think the first supplement I took, I was taking pre-workout. It was called Jacked, and it got banned very quickly. Because it had a lot of ingredients in it that they were like, this is not safe. For like the FDA started looking at it, and they're like, this is not safe. You guys can't be selling this anymore.
Right.
And I was taking that at like 15. And I'm sitting there now, I'm like looking back, I'm like, I didn't realize what I was doing to my body.
Right.
But it was because I saw all these big athletes that were like endorsing this supplement.
It's awful. It's absolutely awful. And when you have such an influence on kids, like how can you do that with the right conscience? Like, how do you sleep at night? Seriously, and get paid for it? Give me a break. So I totally don't know what to say about that one.
So going further outside of there, obviously, as we get older, nutrition's always going to change. I think we always know that, and you even kind of mentioned earlier, like it's almost like the food pyramid. The food pyramid for the U.S., if you look at like other countries, I kind of laugh because I think for the U.S., when you look compared to other countries, the U.S.'s main product is grains.
Right.
And so according to the United States Food and Agriculture, they say, oh, grains is the most important part. It might be true, but to an extent, but then you look at other countries that have a complete opposite food pyramid. And our pyramids changed even over the last few years. So as we get older, obviously our bodies are also adjusting as well. So I'm sure that there's a lot of our viewers out there that have experienced, I used to be able to eat this, now I can't eat this because my body doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. So kind of taking the importance of nutrition already and health and getting to the older stages, what are the benefits and kind of, I know that you had some things that you wanted to discuss surrounding kind of the aging process and nutrition and how those kind of go hand in hand. So I want to let you just kind of go deeper in on that aspect of it.
Sure. I think it's very important, like what you mentioned, Tom, about grains. And there's actually, I think it's saying like grain brain, right? Because grains are heavily sprayed with pesticides. A lot of them are genetically modified, and our bodies are not meant to digest them, right? So I think it puts an added stress on our bodies. And when you age, like you said, your body is, if you've been giving them the stuff like this, and it's like, it's not aging the way it's supposed to, right? So I think in general, there is a misconception about what aging is. And how I like to look at it, I mean, we may grow older, but we don't have to grow old, right? So, and I think nutrition is very important. And obviously exercise, stress management, self-care, whatever, but like nutrition is very important, because if we give our body quality nutrients, anti-inflammatory, like omega-3s, like wild salmon, walnuts, nuts, whole foods, the body will respond in a certain way. And they're also right now, and also the grains and stuff that we've been told is okay to eat, it does harmful things to our microbiome. And a microbiome is responsible for our immune system. It's responsible for our moods. It's even linked to obesity, it's just like taking care of our microbiome is extremely important. And eating things that you're sensitive to, like, you said some people are sensitive to grains, they can no longer eat it. And they continue to eat it. Well, I mean, if you continue to eat it, you will continue aging. But if you realize that, wow, this food is not sitting well with me, and you replace it with something else, with healthy, like you want to basically eat more plant food, fat, protein, but again, not trans fat that we discussed, like, think extra virgin olive oil, ghee, which is, cooked butter, like, you get all the milk solid butter, so, and it's delicious, it smells like caramel, So if you eat that and that heals your gut, so then in terms of aging, you have a totally different experience. Like I will tell you, like from personal experience, when I changed my food, like when I went from, being scared of fat to eating adequate fat, I'm like, I don't count calories anymore. Like I used to count calories. I'm like, oh my God. Now I eat until I feel good. And again, like if I ate something and I don't feel good, well, guess what? I don't eat it anymore. Yeah. Right? It's like, I don't want to eat it, because my main thing is I want to feel good, not like down the road. I want to feel good right now. Yeah. Like I don't want the, cumulative effect of like me like, oh, like, I'm not feeling great, but I'm going to eat it anyway. I'll just take like, a supplement or something to make it go away. It's like, no, it's like I want to give my body what it craves. Like I feel like our bodies often give us signs, right? So it's like, I mean, it expresses itself. Like for me, it was anxiety and depression. So basically what I was doing was not working. Okay. What I was eating, it was not agreeing with my body. So it's like, you can't do the same thing over and over again and expect, a different outcome. Whoever said that, like, I forget, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think, but yeah, so you've got to do what's right for you. And in terms of aging, I think that we've been sold another big fat lie. You know, if you want to take care of yourself, aging can be the best part. Like, I mean, I would never want to go back to high school. I would never want to go back to college. Like, I mean, I love learning, but I want to learn what I want to learn. And in terms of growing older, I'm looking forward to it because, like, I feel better now than I did when I was in my 20s. And, like, I hope, like, when I'm 50, I'm even more vital. I have more energy and, like, you know, and I feel great, you know, every single day. So I think that we can do a lot. So I think it's very important to realize that we are responsible for how we age, how we feel, and where our health goes. Like, we all have those, like, things that, you know, we can't change. And, like, but I think that we can definitely modify how it's going to go, right? So, and I think nutrition plays a very big role in that.
So I think a big portion is obviously, I think unfortunately and it's not just one specific person or one specific group, but I think sometimes when you get older or you get to a certain point, say in your health, and you hit, say, a certain weight or you feel a certain way, and you just go, there's no turning back. Why? Obviously, I think that's a terrible mindset to be in. So obviously with nutrition, I think a lot of people have the misconception that there is no turning back, even though in reality, you can adjust a lot of things no matter how far you've gotten into it. So as far as nutrition side goes, whether it's being obese or almost, say, struggling with, say, being diabetic, stuff like that, how do you feel nutrition that you can actually, instead of continuing down the path and just accepting things the way they are, how do you feel with nutrition that you can actually kind of alter that path and be able to change?
Well, I think there's been a lot of research done, like, very recently in terms of being able to prevent all of these lifestyle diseases. I mean, before it used to be like, oh, maybe, you know, we can't, it's not a question. You can do it. You can change your diet, you can start exercising, you can manage your stress, and you don't have to go down that path. Like, I don't care, like, how big you are, that does not have to be your reality. Like, our bodies want to heal, our bodies want to feel good. And so like you said, it's having a positive mindset is very important, but it's also important to understand that it's never a linear path, right? So there will be setbacks. So that's where your mindset comes in, right? Like recovery, for instance, right? It's not like that, right?
No.
So it's not overnight. It's a long process because your body needs time to heal, right? But when you do have that slip back, or, like, you know, when you come to a point where you're not progressing forward, you just have to allow it and push through it and just continue, take the next small step and keep going. The same thing with anything, right? It's like there comes a point where it's no longer working, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, so you kind of have to change it up. So, like, for instance, if you're eating, let's say, I don't know, raw foods, like you're eating a lot of raw foods and then it stops being beneficial for you, well, try cooking them, like, right? So it's like, it's no longer working for you.
Yeah.
It's like, or like what worked for you in the summer may not work for you in the winter. But having the mindset kind of like, I'm in control of where my life goes, the same way with career, right?
Yeah.
We're in control of our careers because it's of the choices that we make every day. The same thing with all of these diseases, like, you know, diabetes, prediabetes, like, you know, heart disease, obesity, right? So it's like we can change the course at any point. But I mean, obviously, to stay on course, I would say you also have to address your underlying issues, right? So it's like, why did you get here in the first place, right? So you have to look at what you're doing. And I think one thing that Institute for Integrative Nutrition taught me is how to actually get to the bottom of the, like, what is the root cause? Like how, like what attributed to that, right? So, and once you address that, everything kind of like works out, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, again, to get to that point where you're able to be honest with yourself, sometimes it takes like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it's emotional, and processing our emotions, I think, is another thing. It's like we were told like to keep it in, like to be strong. Like keeping your emotions in is not strong. You need to let them out. You need to process them, because if you don't take care of them, they will show up, in other ways, right? So like it could be, your side starts hurt. Like, I mean, it's all basically, I kind of feel that when it comes to nutrition and exercise and like mind work, it's all like one helps the other. So it's an ongoing thing.
Absolutely. So I think kind of to start wrapping it up, in the next 5 years, nutrition, I'm sure we're going to have awesome advancements. I think people are slowly starting to take nutrition a lot more serious. Especially, I mean, you look out in LA and New York and some of these major cities where obviously we typically start seeing a lot of these trends. Unfortunately, some are bad, but I think for right now, it looks like a lot of the athletes, a lot of our actors and actresses, they're starting to kind of start talking about, hey, nutrition's one of the most important parts of our lives. And we're seeing it on movie sets even. I was on Chicago Fire up in Chicago a few years ago, and when I was on set, they had a private chef that like is there on set, and it's not just to be fancy, it was to be able to make sure that the cast was eating healthy. So it wasn't fat and terrible foods that were unhealthy for you. It was stuff that was filled with good fats. It was stuff that was filled with good carbs and different nutrients that these chefs knew that these people needed, especially if you're going to be on set for say 12 to 16 hours a day.
Right.
You can't obviously just go and grab a McDonald's sandwich and then be able to make it through set the whole entire day. You're going to obviously start getting burnt out. So in the next 5 years, as we get more advanced and we start learning more and more about nutrition, where do you see nutrition going, and what are your personal goals with nutrition and what you're wanting to do?
Great question. So I am happy that is starting to happen, because what I would like to also have is like at airports, right? There's absolutely not, like, I mean, I don't know of any health options. Like when I go to the airport, I have to bring my snacks with me, because there's no way I am buying any one of those. Those options are just not for me. So I would love to see healthier foods being more available to people, right? So like you mentioned, like on the movie sets, great. So, I mean, maybe we can get McDonald's to sell like, grass-fed, pasture-raised burgers, instead of factory meat. And, so I think where we're going is that, as you said, as more and more people start voting with their dollars and spending money on quality ingredients, obviously the producers are going to show up. Then another thing that I think will happen is that, again, like I think everything is going to become more individualized, right? Because again, like for somebody you need more B12, somebody needs more iron, right? So, so I think it's going to be more tailored to the individual. And now with all of these tests, you can easily see what you're deficient in, right? And then you can target your nutrition based on your personal needs. But the most important thing, I think, what proper nutrition does, it creates optimism, right? So, and my thing is that when you feel good, because like sometimes like stupid example, but like think about it. Like, have you ever been like hungover? I mean, I know me either, right?
Yeah.
It's like nothing, like you're just like miserable. You're not nice to people around you. And until your body, until you get your electrolytes replenished, your vitamins back to where they need to be, you're miserable.
100%.
So that's how I think it's like a lot of people are in that hungover state without being really hungover because of the food and the ingredients that they consume. So I am hoping that people will wake up from their hangover and start feeling great, because you know what, at the end of the day, when we feel great, like we're nicer to people, stress is easier to handle. And like, I mean, we all need more kindness in the world, for crying out loud, right? So I think that, so I think nutrition is going to be that piece of the puzzle that has been missing for so long. Mm-hmm. And then personally, like, I mean, although when people ask, like, what do you do? What do you want to do? And I say, like, although, like, I want to tweak everybody's nutrition to optimize their well-being and performance. I mean, in all honesty, I want to I want them to fall in love with healthy lifestyle. Yeah. Because, like, again, like, when you feel good, you do good, and then you have more energy. And, like, for me, everything is, like, energy, right? Like, I want to feel energetic, and, you know, like, one of the things, like, I didn't become healthy because I wanted to be healthy, right? Yeah. Like, I wanted to feel good. Mm-hmm. And, like, okay, so it's like, you know, I'm going to live longer, or, you know, it's like, but how would I know I'm living longer, right? I mean, but I will know when I'm, you know, I'm feeling great. I'm not bloated. I sleep well. You know, like, I feel good. I'm not irritable, which sometimes sugar spikes makes you. So, like, if your significant other or somebody you work with is extra annoying, watch those sugar spikes. Yeah. I know that from personal experience. But, yeah, and it's like, I kind of feel like, especially in business, right? Like, so we know that our goals need to be SMART, right? Yes. Specific, measurable, attainable, trackable, relevant, and time bound, right? So so it's like, and I think, like, focusing on living longer, that's a little bit, you know, not a very specific goal. Hard to know when you attained it. It's like too late at that point, right?
Did I hit the age I was wanting to? Yeah.
Right. So I guess, like, my mission is to help everybody feel amazing, you know, and I think nutrition can help everybody do that.
Absolutely. I think another cool thing that I've noticed, even personally, I don't know if you've ever gone to the restaurant. It's called By Chloe, and they're in the city, and it's a vegan restaurant. But one of my old bosses, she was vegan. I'd never tried vegan, never ate vegan, and then I went. The first time I ever did, it was at a company party back in Indiana, and she had vegan food catered. I ate it, and it was like stuff that looked greasy. But then I ate it and I was like, I don't feel terrible after eating this. This is odd. And it was one of those things that I was like, oh, I'm in love with this. I like this, because I'm eating, like, things that feel unhealthy, but I don't feel terrible after. I feel good after. I feel energized after. And I could tell it was a good energy. And there's a restaurant in the city that I absolutely fallen in love with that's called By Chloe.
Oh, I'm gonna have to try it.
It's so good. The one location, I know they have multiple, but the one location I know of, it's like right next to the Rockefeller Center.
Okay.
And it's so good. I mean, I think I typically get, like, their black bean burger, and then they have sweet potato fries, and I mean, you can go and their fries look greasy, but you eat it and you're like, why do I not feel bad? And it's just because the way that they cook it, or the ingredients that they use. And it's just kind of what you talked about. And I think we're slowly starting to see more and more restaurants like that are slowly popping up, and people are going, I'd rather spend the extra $5 on my meal and have this healthier option that I don't feel disgusting afterwards than saving that $5 and getting, no offense to McDonald's, but getting, say, a Big Mac, and then all of a sudden it tasted great going down, but now I'm just kind of like not feeling great the rest of the day. And sometimes you don't even feel bloated eating McDonald's. It's more of just like exactly what you said. It's that sluggish feeling, and it's almost like that grease, like when you have, like, grease on your stove and it gets sticky. It's almost like the grease is just, like, pulling you back, and it's like, nope, you're not allowed to move. So I think it's nice to be able to start seeing that we're having a good trend. And I think exactly to your point of, in the next 5 years, I think we are going to start seeing a huge change in nutrition as people start taking it more serious. So.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. I think it's about time, right?
Absolutely. It's only been how many years?
Right.
So where can people find some more information about you? I know you have some stuff that you do down in Jersey with nutrition. So if they want to like reach out or get more information, where can they find you?
So I have a website.
Okay.
It's www.bestyouLiving.com. So that's you, you as a letter, not Y-O-U. So it's bestyouLiving.com. I think that's the best way to get in contact with me. I just recently started building my social media. So soon I'll get that out too. But at this point, I would say that is the best way. And I am happy to take any questions or answer anything you may want to talk about.
Awesome. So I just want to thank you again, Jenya, for coming on to our podcast. I'm sure that our listeners were able to get a lot out of this. I think it's one of our very beneficial podcasts to not just one person. I think everyone can benefit from this. So I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I love it. It's my first one and hopefully one of many.
I was just going to say, hopefully here to many more. So awesome. So go ahead and make sure, if you aren't subscribed already to the Powered by Iron Health podcast, go ahead and subscribe. And you can find more information about her at her website, which we will also put in the show notes. And live your life powered by Iron Health. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining us today on the Powered by Iron Health podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you'd like more resources and information on Iron Health, please go to ironhealth.co. You can also find us on our socials on Facebook and Instagram, both at ironhealth.co. Keep moving and stay active.